top story, the Supreme Court handing down that 6-3 ruling that clears the way for the Trump administration to restart sweeping ICE raids across Los Angeles. Paul Perez is here now to react. National Border Patrol Council President. Paul, your reaction first to this ruling.
Yeah, this is great for our agents, but it's even better for the citizens of California and our country because it's going to move the impediment of us allowing to go after these criminals that are all over the country. And so it's really great news. Our agents are very well trained. They undergo a very rigorous academy that's both mentally and physically demanding, where we study constitutional law, immigration law, and criminal law. And so they know exactly what they're doing. This only is going to help us do the job a lot better.
And Paul, DHS reacting to this ruling, they say in part, quote, "This is a win for the safety of Californians and the rule of law. DHS law enforcement will not be slowed down and will continue to arrest and remove the murderers, rapists, gang members, and other criminal illegal aliens that Karen Bass continues to give safe harbor." Paul, what this ruling is essentially going to do is allow Border Patrol, your men and women, to use location, job type, physical appearance, Spanish speaking as some of the factors when making arrests. Why are those factors important to use?
Those are all considered articulable facts. You know, all our agents and officers are trained on how to testify to everything that we do. We understand that all the actions that we take may wind up having us sit in front of a judge and explaining our actions, because every defendant has the right to counsel, and most of these attorneys are going to try to suppress evidence or suppress the stop. And in this case, it allows us to use those articulable facts to establish the reasonable suspicion or the probable cause to effect an arrest. So we know what we're doing. This only allows us to do it, and it takes into account all of those factors that you mentioned.
The Supreme Court just obliterated Gavin Newsom's immigration agenda. And what's happening in Chicago right now might shock the entire nation. ICE agents are back in full force, sweeping through California with zero restrictions. And now a powerful federal operation has kicked off in the heart of Chicago, led by none other than Tom Homan himself. This isn't just a legal victory, it's a political earthquake that could flip blue states red. If you care about law, order, and truth, finally winning, smash that subscribe button and stay locked in, because what happens next could change everything.
The federal government, of course, appealed that case, and the Ninth Circuit did not grant the federal government's request for stay. But then they went to the Supreme Court on what's called, the U.S. Supreme Court, on what's called the emergency docket. And today we got word that on the emergency docket, on a 6-3 decision, it appears the U.S. Supreme Court has stayed, provided an emergency stay on this case. And so it's disappointing. And the emergency docket has been used more and more. You often don't know who has voted how and for what reason. There's no argument. There's no written opinion. There's no statement by judges as to justices regarding where they stand and why they stand where they do. We did get a little glimpse into some thinking with a concurrence by Justice Kavanaugh on the emergency opinion, as well as a dissent by Justice Sotomayor.
On Supreme Court unleashes federal ICE power in California. The United States Supreme Court just handed down a decision that completely strips California of its power to restrict federal immigration enforcement. For years, Gavin Newsom protected illegal immigrants through sanctuary policies that hampered ICE operations. That all changed with a 6-3 ruling that now allows ICE to conduct raids statewide, no need for state permission. This ruling means ICE agents can operate with full authority, using indicators like language, job site, or prior records to act swiftly. The shield Newsom built is shattered, and federal law is now the law of the land. And here's the shocker: this ruling could unlock sweeping changes in other liberal-run states too. Millions of Californians who felt abandoned are now cheering federal enforcement. And if you think this was big, wait until you see what's happening in Chicago. The Operation Midway Blitz begins without state approval. While California reels from the ruling, Tom Homan has already launched Operation Midway Blitz in Chicago, a federal sweep targeting illegal criminals hiding in one of the country's most dangerous cities. What's shocking is this: no coordination, no cooperation, no approval from the Illinois governor or Chicago mayor. Yet federal officers are now active across major districts. In neighborhoods like Brighton Park and suburbs like Evanston, law enforcement is escalating, hard and fast. Residents are reporting ICE sightings, while local leaders remain silent. This isn't symbolic, real operations are underway, and they're not asking permission. Chicago mayors used to ignore ICE, now they're being bypassed entirely. But the most outrageous twist? Some officials tried to warn the targets ahead of time.
Just into the newsroom, the U.S. Supreme Court lifted restrictions on immigration stops in Los Angeles. Patrols across the city were detaining people if agents suspected those people were undocumented. But back in July, a federal judge ruled those patrols violated the Constitution and could lead to racial profiling. She argued agents detained people because of their race, the language they spoke, or where they worked. The Department of Justice told the Supreme Court that this ruling prevents them from adequately doing their job. By blocking the federal judge's decision, the Supreme Court will allow immigration stops without reasonable suspicion to continue.
Illegal immigrants were warned before raids by officials. In recent months, there have been documented incidents where city employees tipped off immigrant communities about upcoming enforcement actions. That's not speculation, that's confirmed by multiple resident reports and community organizations. These advance warnings didn't just sabotage federal efforts, they allowed actual criminals, including violent offenders, to vanish before officers arrived. The goal was never to target the innocent, but to arrest individuals with existing warrants, convictions, or immigration violations. Yet some officials actively undermined that. Let that sink in. City insiders gave criminals a head start to escape law enforcement. How can public safety be restored when your own government is working against it? And this next part will tell you exactly why they're doing it. It's all about power. Political power through illegal votes, a hidden motive? Here's the part that's not being shouted in headlines. Illegal immigrants in several sanctuary cities have been granted voting rights in local elections. In places like San Francisco and New York, laws now allow non-citizens to cast ballots for school boards and municipal offices. It may sound limited, but it's a slippery slope, and political machines know exactly what they're doing. Imagine the influence when tens of thousands of non-citizens start tipping close local races. That's why operations like the Midway Blitz and Supreme Court enforcement scare local power players. You flood a city with illegal votes, and suddenly the outcome isn't up to citizens anymore. That's not democracy, that's strategic manipulation on a terrifying scale. And while politicians grab votes, real Americans are paying a devastating cost.
Quickly shift gears here on Live Now from Fox. Take you out to the White House. Border czar Tom Homan there speaking with reporters. Let's take you out to the very beginning as it just happened moments ago.
How does this change the operation on
National Guard, they're always on the table, right? But right now it's a surge of law enforcement officers. And look, the president was clear on that 2 months ago. He said he's going to prioritize enforcement in sanctuary cities, and we talked about that before. Why? Because we know we have a problem in sanctuary cities. We know for a fact they're releasing illegal aliens, public safety threats every day. So, like I said before, we don't have that problem in Florida, right? Where every sheriff and chief works with us. So where are we going to send additional assets? Sanctuary cities where we know it's a problem. So and despite what Mayor Wu says, I got the data to back it up. We know how many criminal aliens are being released there. Look at the number of child predators we arrested, not just Boston, but outlying communities in Massachusetts. I mean, I spoke at the CPAC conference and I said, I just got done reading a total of 9 child predators released to the streets. So, you know, we have the data. They are a sanctuary city. That state's a sanctuary state. I know Governor Healy made a statement, why am I so infatuated with Massachusetts? I'm infatuated with every sanctuary city. We're going to send resources there. We're going to, if they don't want to help us, to get out of the way, and we'll make your city safer
but
for you.
Today, President Trump said he's waiting for a call from Chicago. Does that mean he's waiting for local leaders to call him before sending in National Guard troops?
They've had plenty of chances to call. We're going to go ahead and do Operation Sanctuary City. I think the president's referring to it. I'm not familiar with that, but I think he wants to talk about what more can we do to make this more efficient and more meaningful. But if they don't want to come to the table and work with us, we're going to do it anyway. If they want to sit there and watch us make their city safer, then go ahead and watch.
Free resources for illegals while citizens struggle. While millions of American citizens face rising rent, inflation, and safety concerns, some cities have directed funds to house, feed, and transport illegal immigrants, all paid by local taxpayers. In Illinois, state documents show over $300 million allocated just last year for non-citizen aid. That includes hotel stays, prepaid cards, food vouchers, and transportation. Meanwhile, local businesses are closing under crime pressure and residents can't get basic relief. That imbalance has triggered a public backlash, and many small business owners are now openly supporting federal intervention. Imagine working 2 jobs and paying taxes only to fund benefits for someone who broke the law. This isn't about compassion. It's about control, money, and politics. But there's one man who isn't playing those games, and his return changes everything. Tom Homan's return marks a shift in federal aggression. Tom Homan isn't just a former ICE director, he's a bulldozer for immigration enforcement. And now he's back in action. He's bypassing state leaders and sending units directly into cities where violent offenders are hiding in plain sight. In his recent statements, he pointed out that cities like Chicago, Boston, and Los Angeles are not only refusing to help, they're releasing child predators and gang members back into communities. Homan's team is treating this like a national emergency, not a political game. And with the Supreme Court now removing legal barriers, he's pushing further than before. He's not asking, he's acting. And he's putting results before politics. Every operation under his lead is a direct challenge to sanctuary ideology. But what happens if this momentum actually shifts the political landscape itself?
Department of Homeland Security says it has begun Operation Midway Blitz, targeting Chicago and the state of Illinois. President Trump continues to emphasize that Governor Pritzker has not asked for the White House to help fight crime. Political reporter Marianne Ahern live for us now on the Southwest side with the latest. Marianne.
Good afternoon to both of you. Yes, we are in the Brighton Park neighborhood, one of the areas of the city that is on high alert. But not just this part of the city, also north suburban Evanston. It has been told that it may as also be one of the suburban towns that is a focus of increased ICE operations. And again, it isn't just Evanston as the only suburban town that could see these raids.
Say it loud, say it clear! Immigrants are welcome here!
Supporters for immigrant rights gathered at Pulaski and Archer this afternoon, voicing their concerns.
This morning, we actually responded to a couple more sightings on 61st and Kildare. I was able to knock on one of the windows of one of the cars that was alleged to be ICE agents. They did identify themselves with the Department of Homeland Security. When I asked them why they were here, what were they doing, they said they couldn't tell me anymore.
This was never about arresting the worst of the worst. It's been about terrorizing our communities, but we will not be intimidated.
Could Illinois be the first blue state to flip over immigration? What started as a legal ruling is now becoming a political rebellion. For the first time in decades, Illinois is seeing massive ideological cracks in its urban core. Suburban voters, Hispanic business owners, and even immigrant families who follow the law are voicing frustration with how illegal immigration is being handled. The ICE operations, rather than causing panic, are being met with support by citizens tired of crime, budget deficits, and unsafe neighborhoods. If federal enforcement continues at this pace and Democrats keep opposing it, Illinois may become the first domino in a much larger political shift. This isn't just about immigration anymore. It's about reclaiming the country, one city at a time. And if Chicago falls, other sanctuary cities could be next. Because when lawlessness meets resistance, the people start waking up.
And as Governor Pritzker says, he has had no direct communication with the White House.
We think really hard before putting out information like we put out today because we know that we don't know. And the last thing we want to do is cause panic, especially when it's not necessary.
What is the limit to his power, and where is the line to be drawn if a president is able to go to war against the city he also represents?
On social media, President Trump said, quote, Governor Pritzker just stated that he doesn't want the federal government help. Why?
It's like you're talking to a wall. It's just I assume it's just a political ideology. They're not stupid people. Must be an ideology that's just buried in their head and you can't do a damn thing about it. And we'd love to go into Chicago and straighten it out.
This isn't just policy, it's a turning point for millions of Americans who felt ignored, unprotected, and unheard. While some leaders stay silent, real action is finally happening on the ground, and it's restoring hope where chaos once ruled. If you believe in protecting families, securing communities, and standing up for what's right, your voice matters now more than ever. Drop your thoughts in the comments and hit that subscribe button to stand with truth, law, and real change. This is only the beginning and you're part of it.